Welcome to our panel. I hope that this is the best 20 minutes of your night. I am bringing out my panel that has about 5 people, so please come up. I think they're coming out soon. Please give them a round of applause to get them excited about coming out. All right. So I will have them introduce themselves so that we can go ahead and get started. Again, hopefully this is your best 20 minutes of the night.
Good evening. I'm Nick Zaldastani, and I call myself a mentor capitalist. For those of you that are venture capitalists out there, I try to communicate what I do by the whole notion of finding the genius in people and helping them monetize it. I've lived in San Francisco most of my life, and now in a little town of Durham, North Carolina.
Hello. My name is Brady Buckner. I am the president of the Financial Services Innovation Coalition. We're a nonprofit think tank out of Washington, D.C. We're all about economic inclusion, having the economy more powerful, and I'm very, very happy to be here. Thank you very much.
I'm John Balele. I'm a financial advisor with Coverage and Capital Financial Strategies. I help people navigate and find their options in the American financial system.
My name is Troy Beetz. I'm the CEO of How Strong Media. We are a VC group that helps minority startups in the tech space, entertainment, athletics, pretty much everything, helping them out.
And I'm Kimble, the CEO of Financial Services Innovation Coalition. Glad to be here. This is a very timely panel. Thanks.
All right. Have a seat, guys. Thank you. So tonight we are going to talk about DE&I, as well as the big R, racism and technology. DE&I, as some of you may know, is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we're going to get right into our panel. My first question for our panel guests is, let's talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion in technology. Who wants to start?
Everyone looked at me, so I'll start. We're in a really precarious time when it comes to DE&I. The headwinds, the tech community is either silent or actively engaging against DE&I. The article came out last week that Google and Facebook and a couple other the big name tech companies had cut their DE&I commitments from 2023, in 2023 from 2020 levels. And Elon Musk said he hates DE&I. The only billionaire of any note that said anything positive about DE&I was Mark Cuban, who said he uses it because he thought it was good business. So we're worried that as we transition to the future, that the forces of intolerance, just to say it, is the racists are pushing, they're spending tons of money to make it illegal to be inclusive in your businesses. 13 attorney generals sent letters to businesses in their states saying that DE&I was illegal in their state. They didn't want to do it. Oklahoma, Texas, Florida, and Wisconsin just eliminated DE&I both in their state government offices and as part of their educational systems. So as we talk about the future with these glowing terms, all this activity, all this access, all of this promise, if we can't be inclusive legally, then we're going to be exclusive. And we already know the numbers are bad coming into this. We had an exclusive template here or ecosystem, and so to make it more inclusive, we have to be aggressive. And the people in this room, we call on everyone to be aggressively pro DE&I, and we can talk more about it, but I'll pass it on to the next people now on the panel.
Yeah, can I give a trigger warning? We're going to use the R word, racism, racist. I hope I don't make anybody uncomfortable with that, but we have to talk about it. It's a conversation we have to have right now because a couple of reasons. One, the economy is what it is. They say it's good, they say it's bad, but it doesn't matter because when we're out there in the communities, it is not good for most of the people in this country. About right now, 63% of the country is living check to check. That's everybody. That's white, black, BIPOC, whatever. And that's a shame because if all of these groups of people out there that are being systematically excluded from the economy, they're not getting the same opportunities for government contracts or opportunities as other people, they're purchasing power right now is almost nothing. So that 2/3 of the economy, right, is people spending money. Well, if you don't have any money to spend, it's hard to help the economy. So the second point is we're in a race with the world for very, very life-changing things like quantum computing, blockchain, and we're leaving about 30% of our young minds on the sideline because Hispanics and African Americans make up about 30% of the country. So we're not drawing on that talent to help solve this problem to protect our country. So those two things alone make me question, what don't people get about having a strong country, a strong economy, being safe? So we'll talk about that tonight.
Now, so let's go back, because we know diversity is more than just race. It's about women as well. So does someone want to touch on like women in the industry? Because I've noticed if I go out and I try to get a job in the tech industry, I may not be as lucky, or I may not get as paid as much as my counterpart that may not be a female. So does someone want to touch on that?
Yeah, it would be much more helpful to actually have a woman here that could represent that as well. But I can tell you right now, foundationally for me, it's about diversity and inclusion. But when you talk about women, through How Strong, what we're trying to do, I'd say keeping women safe throughout the world is paramount before we talk about diversity and inclusion. It's probably the #1 species that's on attack almost every day, everywhere around the world. We're trying to help solve that problem, but it's hard for me to get past the amount of survival that women have to go through globally before we decide, how do we help them be inclusive when most of them are being, it's devastated throughout the world. On the other end of that, it's going to take an education to understand how significant their role is in businesses. I watched this movie, and it actually touches both the minority piece and the women piece, which was Hidden Figures. I mean, as a man watching that movie, I was completely blown away. I had no idea that was part of our history, and something that significant came out of that movie. A lot of people didn't understand not only African Americans and women in NASA, but solving huge problems. So it's going to take an education, and it's going to take a ton of media to get someone to actually look and see that there's an issue. But to your point too, what are we going to do, and when is it enough? That's when we need to decide, how strong. If we knew the world was going to end 5 years from now or 10 years from now with global warming, we knew we needed to make a change or something was going to happen. What is that thing that's going to happen if we continue to bypass women in our community?
Does anyone else want to?
This is very apropos that we're here at CES, and that's all going on this week. And I think I'm going to age myself, my 42nd CES. And this has always been the barometer for me for the economy. And as we think about what we're challenged with here and what we're discussing, what I like to think about is more how do we move forward rather than how do we talk about where we've been. So I think as a stage, we have to understand what's been going on the last few years and why these things are actually happening in front of our eyes, and how are we going to go to the future. So to start with, technology really was a very challenged place over the past 2 years. Moore's Law has allowed us to do things faster and faster and faster, almost to a point of we can't even move that fast. We can't take advantage of it. There are, you'll see at the show here, TVs that the content can't even match what the TVs are putting out. We're so far ahead of ourselves in some ways, and yet, as we talk around this room, so behind. And I've been a huge supporter of women-run businesses over my career as a VC, really supporting the women that are bold enough to stand out, the minorities that are bold enough to stand out, because that is our future, and that brings the richness to the industry of technology. But let's look forward. It's exciting. We're coming out of this technology challenged period. Every year I come out with a phrase that I tend to tweet around about what's happened. Last year, I walked away from this CES and I said, this is going to be a year of stop-start. And if we think about what this year was like and what we're doing here, this is exactly what happened. stop-start. Everything was stop-start. Well, I'm going to go bold here and announce what my prediction is for this year. Maybe a little early. I still have one more day at the show, but lots of energy out there. Lots of really great energy. But it's scattered. It's really scattered. And it's almost like energetically, I look at this field and everyone's running around, but I don't see focus. So I think what I'd love us to think about as we think about where we're going is we got to do it right. We don't have the opportunity to try. We've got to align ourselves and make some very calculated moves. And to me, to get away from or even think of, the typical, you have 10 options. Well, if you put all of your energy around one option, the chance of it winning is so much better. And I think we really, as a group, have to come together and decide what initiatives we want to push forward. And guess what? We all got to get behind it. And that's what I'm excited about, because I see this as a year that has tremendous energy, and those initiatives that are well supported, well focused on, well backed, and clear are going to move forward. So I am really disappointed with the numbers that we've seen. I'm really frustrated. But history has always been 10 steps forward and a few steps back, 10 steps forward, a few steps back. So it's our chance now to think, what are the 10 steps forward we need to do in 2024 so that we're ahead?
Well, I will start with the first step of the 10 is we all have to agree that someone like Bloom, who's suing every time people try to help minorities, is wrong, and we call him out and we stop doing business with him. I mean, that's the first step. We can't allow the forces of intolerance to keep moving forward. I mean, that's got to be like, the first thing, if you ask me, the first thing you should do when you go home is kick out a letter, Edward Bloom, you need to stop. And I disagree with everything you're saying, I think everything you're doing. And every friend you know, everyone in your golf course, everyone in your yacht club, just grab them all, and that's the first step. Because if we lose that battle, nothing else matters, right? If it's illegal to do D&I, then your venture capital work with minorities and women go away anyway, so we can't win that fight.
Yeah, I would say something that was interesting. I used to live on the south side of Chicago. We talk about the workplace, but then you talk about the gentrified neighborhoods, which is diversity, inclusion. Yeah. They're all going away. Yeah. South side of Chicago is filled with Starbucks. They've moved out pretty much every small business out of the south side, and now you've erased a complete history. You see that in downtown LA. I grew up in LA. The LA that I see now is not the LA that I grew up with. So when you start taking away some of these historical experiences, it's no wonder that when these kids grow up, they're not tied to anything significant. Yeah. There is no heritage anymore, and I think that's the root for me. And I can tell you this just from a personal perspective. When my grandfather came here from Spain, my grandmother was American Indian. My mom was born in Arizona. Everyone puts white on the birth certificate because that's how you survived at the time. You didn't put. There's no way you're putting Hispanic or Mexican. You're putting white on your driver's license. If you look at my mom's driver's license, it says white. I'm like, you're absolutely not white, but it's there. But there's this thing growing up where I think what also has to happen is a resurgence of heritage and understanding where you came from and why you need to succeed. So racism is going to be out there, but I think fundamentally at home, you absolutely need to teach where you came from, historically where your family's from, and why you need to succeed. Because it's not going to be handed to you. I can guarantee you everybody on this panel wasn't handed anything. And you're going to see racism. You're going to have obstacles in your way. But what prevents that is having a very strong mind, having intellect, and not giving in intellectually to a crowd that thinks or assumes that you're unintelligent. The power of the mind is fantastic. You can outsmart a racist anytime you want. But if you portray exactly what he's thinking or she's thinking, you've lost.
Yeah, I think to add on to that is just people's perception of what, a model minority has been one of those things out there. It's like, the growing up and getting out of your origin story, right? Growing up in the hood, you mentioned the south side of whatever city, MLK, moving into a different direction. There's always this that you're an exception versus just the norm, right? I know 100, or the organization I work with, there's 1,500 black financial advisors or financial planners. And walking into a room like that, that was an eye-opener for me, even being in the industry, right? So I think it's changing the perception of what people really look at minorities in their space as, is this an intruder? Is this an imposter? Is this a mercy hire, right? You're seeing DEI push back because people are looking at it as like, all right, now there's enough. All right, we don't need any more of you in here. Innovation is fine without you, right? But now you're also cutting out your market share, right? Like how many of those products could be in the hands of people that would use it, but it's not felt like it's for you, right? So I think a lot of what's going on right now is just like we're hitting that break point of like, the tolerance level, where we're seeing that, all right, they're kind of fed up, right? And at some point you have to kind of like move to the next space of like pushback, and you galvanize and you vote with your pocket, like you said, or you just let things happen. We go back to the norm, right? We're far enough away from the catalyst that started this whole thing with COVID and being at home and them seeing them just kill a black man, on the street. And it started a lot. People had time to go out and protest, right? We talk about bloodshed and all these things and the norm with the police. And then you go into the tech sector, which is less violent, obviously, but you are excluding people from scenarios where you could change your life with a couple certifications and an application to Google, and you get a $75K a year job, and you doubling what your dad made, you know what I mean, working down at the factory or whatever. But that's not even an opportunity for most people because we're not given the access, internet in most places. You drive to the south side of Chicago where my grandma lived. That was just, you know what I mean? Like, not only are you in a dangerous spot, 911 don't work, and they won't come for you. So, really just giving people the opportunity to kind of just show and shine is, I think, one of the things that has come from that we gotten an opportunity, but now it's kind of like, let's take it back a little bit. Like, you guys are doing too well in that, or we just don't need you guys here. And I think that's really what we're kind of seeing in DEI and the anti-racist movement and, kind of just shutting down the DEI sectors. It's really sad to see it, but I mean, for those of us that are in the space, you got to speak up a little louder. As a financial advisor, black people only represent about 3% of that entire financial practice. You know what I mean? And you go across the board, and it's usually around 3 to 5%. Doctors, lawyers, whatever, what a profession you're looking. And is that by chance? Are we just not good enough? Are we poor studies? Or are we just not given opportunities? Or, when I walk up to somebody and tell them I work in finance, it's usually, oh, I didn't know that. Or, let me see your card, and they go, look it up. You know what I mean? There's never a trust there. I don't know if it's through stigma or otherwise, but, DEI is kind of like the new affirmative action. You know what I mean? It's just giving people a fair playing field. And even there's pushback in, like Harvard just tried to shut down, or I think they did shut down their affirmative action program for their students. So like if you look at that, Harvard's a melting pot of minorities, right? We all know that. But now they're giving it back. They're taking that back to say, oh, we've given enough of those diplomas out to you guys. Now do what you will with it. And I think that's the problem we're seeing here. That the perception of who, the people on high have to see it. It never becomes an issue until it comes into your front yard. And, that's what COVID kind of did. It kind of gave us a little viewpoint of everybody's front yard.
So, go ahead. What I want to do is segue. We'll give you a chance to make your statement, but I want to have the audience ask us questions prior to ending this. So go ahead, Brady.
Oh, so one thing that's really important to me is that if we call somebody and say something and they think we're calling them a racist, that may not be the case, but it's really important to know that that's not the point. The point is these things we've been talking about fixing the economy, to helping the economy, helping us be more innovative in the case of the technology race that we're in right now with the country, with other countries. So that to me is the point, and I don't think a lot of people think that. I think they feel uncomfortable even addressing it, because I used to be one of those people. I'm from Montana. The things that I said and did back then, I'm not ashamed of. I understand it, but so many people have these thoughts that I've had. Okay, if I say welfare queen, what does everybody think of right now? They don't think of a young lady in a trailer park in West Virginia. So I'll stop there.
Okay, all right. So do we have any questions from our audience?
You got in the back there.
I see that there is someone taking a mic. There you go,
Oh,
right
we good, we
behind
can hear
you.
Oh, I apologize. Oh, it's your choice.
But I will take a mic. Thank you. You know, folks, I'm 100% in agreement with you. One of my daughters is biracial. One of my best friends, since I've known since 10 years old, lived with for 7 years from 19 to 24, something like that, is a black gentleman. And I admire him. I've told him multiple times, I want to be more like you every day of my life. That's the quality of a man he is. The reason I share that with you is that if you folks really want to make a really poignant statement, go to Hollywood and stop having the blacks and Hispanics be the gangsters and the goof-offs, the goofballs. Now, they do this with whites and everyone else, right? You know, the morons on TV. And why don't you have them start projecting to the world the high-quality blacks, Hispanics, and any other race that is out there. The black population takes up 13% of the United States of America, if my memory serves me correct. 13% of the doctors on TV should be black. 13% of the accountants, financial advisors, and anybody of substance, you know, successful to the community, 13% of them should be represented on a national, international level in our movies and our TV programs. And that's my statement.
Thank you. Thank you. We have another question in the back. Right beside you.
Hello? Yeah, actually, this is not a question, but a comment. You know, it blows my mind when you discuss this diversity because I can completely understand Elon Musk saying, you know, not about the diversity, because he is looking for the top talent to be in his company. It doesn't matter what color it is. You know, as long as you are good at, you know, what he wants, he will hire them. He will hire a 15-year-old. He will hire somebody without a degree. So, you know, I am running a company, and I don't care what race they are from. You know, our blood is the same color. You know, whatever color we are all. So I don't think race matters. It's what your education is, what your skill set are, and your integrity. To me, that is very important too. So that's my point. I mean, I think this discussion is kind of strange to me. Because in India, you know, it's like such a diverse country, people with so many colors, you know, coming from different backgrounds. But we get the best of the people to work for the companies, especially for startups. They're always looking for the best of the best. So I would suggest to eliminate this racial separation. The key thing is to have education being the top of the, you know, thing everybody needs to teach their kids. Education, get them the best education. I didn't grow up in a place where, you know, high-end schools or anything. But, you know, my parents were very strict on education. That's the main thing. Then the second thing is this judgment. People seem to have so much of judgment. I think we need to address this judgment and not judge other people based on things. That need to be taught not to be judging others. You know, it should be based on what they are, not because of their color or anything. I mean, somebody having on their skin a little bit more melanin doesn't make them any different, you know. It blows my mind how things are about the race, honestly. But thank you.
Thank you.
So I want to respond to that really quickly. You know, if that were the case, Edward Bloom wouldn't spend millions of dollars fighting to exclude people, right? I mean, there is this idea that people only want the best. I mean, our economist did some research, and he showed that this is a consumption cost for people like him, right? The people who spend this money, they enjoy oppression, right? So it's not, they don't care that they're losing money. Like, he sued the women in Georgia, the Fearless Fund, he sued them. They were giving away $25,000 grants, 10 $25,000 grants, so $250,000 what they were giving away. He's gonna spend $3, $4, $5 million on a lawsuit to stop them from doing that. So I think your own personal experience may be relevant. Maybe you have a fully diverse team at your school. Maybe you've gone and looked for talent all over, I'm not sure. But the people who are doing this aren't doing it for nothing. There's a purpose to this. And I think that we need to, I can't ignore that purpose. I mean, there's no way this guy, he's filed a lawsuit he sued Harvard, he filed all these lawsuits. He's spending maybe $100 million to stop inclusion. He's not doing that by accident.
I'd like to say one thing to that too, is if Elon Musk truly believed that, he wouldn't just choose from the same pool over and over. He would choose from pools of all people. So I understand what you're saying, but I disagree with it. He is not choosing people from the whole pool.
All right, so I know this is a hot topic, but we're at time, but we've got one last comment that I see right here to your left. I'm so sorry. Can someone please get her a mic, and then we will wrap up.
So my question is, you have a lot of kids out there who don't know or don't have the pathway to know what to do or how to get to the level that you're at. And excuse me, representation matters, as we know, but if you don't know, then you don't know. So how do you guys feel that we can get the pathway out there for them, or the blueprint, so they can be able to come into this career field no matter what their color is or what schools there are? Because I know if you go to the top tier school, you get this information. Whereas if you're in the lower income schools, even high school and junior high, they don't know that this is even an option for them.
So 30 seconds, whoever wants to answer.
So to me, it's all about knowing who you really are. And if there's a takeaway, I think, for everybody in the room, is to support people in helping them know who they really are, especially our youth. Because when people know who they are, they can stand up against Elon Musk. They can put themselves out there in a way where that color disappears, or a better way to say it maybe is the color really appears, because to me, that's what it's all about. It's embracing color, it's embracing race, and so I want to know who the real person is and what they really can do for an organization. And so I always like to leave these things with something we walk away with rather than just a nice conversation. And so I challenge everyone in the room to walk away the minute you're coaching someone, because all of us do, make sure they know the most important thing for them to do is to be known for who they are and to make sure they have no concern in letting that out.
All right, thank you. Nick Z said it best. We are at time. I'm so sorry. Thank you all. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your comments. And we look forward to seeing you all next year.